I want to think that being aggressive has always kind of been what I've aimed to do. Maybe it's only come out well like in the past year or so, but no, I think it's really part of my game. Of course, I have an amazing team who have really fine-tuned my game and really helped me take it to the next level now. But yeah, I think being aggressive is something that I like to do. Yeah.
40-15.
Nobody saw it coming. Not like this, not this fast, not this completely. One moment, Karolina Muchova was the seasoned Grand Slam finalist, doing exactly what she does best, dismantling rhythms, stealing momentum, making a 19-year-old look hopelessly lost on the biggest stage of her young career. And then, in the span of what felt like a single heartbeat, everything flipped. The crowd erupted, the scoreboard told a story nobody in that stadium was ready for, and Alexandra Ayala, this kid from the Philippines who was ranked 140 in the world just 12 months ago, was standing in the middle of the Hard Rock Stadium court looking like she owned every single inch of it. This is not just a tennis match. This is the moment everything changed. Let's rewind and talk about what was actually at stake here, because the numbers on the bracket don't even begin to tell the real story. On paper, this looked like a classic stylistic contrast. Ayala, the mechanical aggressor, the player who steps onto the court and immediately tries to impose a suffocating
Is following us out with sign serves delivered today. It's the official on-demand delivery and pickup platform of the Miami Open.
So the young superstar from the Philippines continues to delight her fans even here in Miami, Nico.
And you just saw her words. You just saw why she's so well liked everywhere. Goes beyond tennis. She's an unbelievable player, but poised beyond her years and
grinding rhythm on everything and everyone in front of her. Her lefty forehand is not just a weapon, it is a statement. It pulls opponents wide, drags them into the doubles alley, opens the entire court like a surgeon opening a chest cavity, and then she finishes the point with a precision that makes the whole thing look almost unfair. She is built on repetition, on geometry, on the relentless, almost hypnotic accumulation of pressure until the player across the net simply breaks. That is her game. That is her world. And then there's Karolina Muchova, and if Ayala is a metronome, Muchova is the hammer that smashes it to pieces. This woman does not play tennis the way you learned it. She changes the height of the ball, she changes the spin, she changes the speed, the tempo, the direction, and she does not do this from point to point. She does it 3 times within the same rally. Heavy topspin to the baseline, followed by a biting backhand slice that barely clears the tape, followed by a floating moonball that scrambles your internal clock completely. She is a saboteur. She is an artist of discomfort. And she had a Grand Slam final on her resume and zero fear in her eyes walking onto that court.
Potential on that front. Antoinette had to be careful there and just managed to put it beyond the outstretched racket of the Filipina. Oh, left herself open there, and Ayala helped herself, but a tremendous shot.
So when these two met in the round of 16 in Miami, the tennis world collectively leaned forward. Because this was not just a match. This was a definitive litmus test. Could Ayala's meteoric rise survive contact with a genuinely elite disruptor? Or was this the brick wall everyone had been quietly waiting for? But here is what made this moment so much bigger than just this one match. Look at what Eala had already been through to get here. This was not a player who arrived at the round of 16 on a free ride. She had survived an absolute bloodbath against Laura Siegemund, over 3 hours in the sweltering Miami heat against a player who thrives on weird angles, disjointed patterns, and making you feel like you completely forgot how to play tennis. And Ayala did not just survive.
Once again.
I think one of them can't bear to watch. Oh, made to measure. Magda liked it. Her team like it. Oh, she did well to keep her concentration. What a point. Top-class tennis.
Survived that. She walked through it. Then she came back out and faced Magdalena Freitag, a highly structured, highly intelligent counterpuncher who was riding the high of having just knocked off the world #1. And Ayala did not just beat her, she dismantled her. She controlled the entire narrative of that match. But the moment that told you everything you needed to know about what Ayala was becoming happened in the second set against Freitag, down 3-5. Back against the wall, the crowd holding its breath. That is the exact moment where young players fall apart. That is where they rush, where they panic, where they start spraying balls into the back fence, trying to manufacture miracles off of shots they have absolutely no business attacking. Instead, Ayala breathed. She slowed her heart rate. She retreated into the absolute certainty of her game plan, trusted her heavy ground strokes, and methodically fought her way out of that hole to dominate the tiebreak. That is not just a forehand. That is a mind. That is the hallmark of a champion.
It's gone out. Listen to the noise. The ovation in the very place where she made her breakthrough last season. Ayala takes another step to recreating her heroics from 12 months ago. The Filipino superstar is again into the round of 16 in Miami, disposing of Magdalena in straight sets, 6-3, 7-6.
Now, Muchova was the ultimate stress test of everything Ayala had been building. Because Muchova does not just disrupt, she disrupts with surgical purpose. When she hits that slice backhand, it is not a defensive bailout. It is a trap. She uses it to keep the ball impossibly low on the hard court, forcing Ayala to bend, to scoop, to hit from below her own strike zone. And the moment Ayala is hitting from a compromised position, the moment that ball floats even a fraction of an inch short, Muchova is already moving. She is gliding forward, closing the net, arriving like a phantom. And once Muchova gets to the net, she is one of the most instinctual finishers in.
I wanted to ask specifically about the second set tiebreak. I know you were up initially in the second set, and she got it back on service. Kind of, what was your mindset going into that, tiebreak tonight?
I think I just told myself to be brave. Just do whatever I could. I can't control how she was playing, and she I think upped her game in the second. So I tried to go for my shots, and they were effective, luckily. Yeah.
The history of the modern women's tour. The drop volley, the deep punch volley, the swinging drive. She can do all of it, and she can do it at full speed while reading exactly where you were going. And the Miami conditions? They were supposed to help Ayala. The thick air, the oppressive humidity, the slow courts, all of it theoretically favored the grinder, the player willing to stay out there for 3 grueling hours and let the lactic acid do the work. That is Ayala's territory. That is where she makes her living. But here's the twist nobody talks about. Those exact same heavy, slow conditions make Muchova's slice even more dangerous, because when the ball is already heavy and the court is already gripping everything that bounces on it, Muchova's backspin does not pop up. It stays glued to the surface. It skids. It stays low. And Ayala is constantly scrambling, constantly making micro adjustments with her feet, her grip, her backswing. And against Muchova, 1 degree of imbalance is all she needs. 1 lazy step, 1 fraction of a second late, and she has the short ball she was hunting for all along.
Throughout the tournament here, I'm sure you've noticed around the grounds there's been a lot of pets, cats and dogs and things like that. Are you a cat and dog person? And just what are your thoughts about seeing, players bringing their pets, on site?
I personally have never really had like a big pet, but no, I think it's great for the players to have those.
The entire match was always going to be decided by one inescapable pattern. Ayala's heavy lefty forehand cross-court, straight into Muchova's backhand. That diagonal line is the foundation of everything Ayala does. She uses it to pull opponents wider and wider until the court cracks open. But Muchova was never going to stand there and trade heavy topspin blows with a lefty. She is too smart for that. She absorbs, she slices, she chops the legs out from under the rally and sends a low, dirty ball right back at Ayala's feet. And right there is the razor's edge of this entire match. If Muchova's slice floats even a centimeter too high, Ayala steps up, takes it on the rise, and crushes the point. Game over. But if Muchova executes, if that ball kisses the tape and skids fast and low through the court, suddenly Ayala is the one fighting for survival. And Ayala had a glaring vulnerability that Muchova was going to exploit the very first chance she got: the second serve. Analytically, it sits up in the strike zone. It lacks the heavy pushing penetration that keeps returners cautious. Against 90% of the WTA Tour, Ayala can survive that because her footwork is elite and her baseline defense is exceptional. But against Muchova, a mediocre second serve is practically an invitation. Muchova does not wait for the ball. She steps 2-3 feet inside the baseline, catches it early before the peak of the bounce, chips it low and deep into the corners, and follows that ball straight to the net like a heat-seeking missile. And suddenly, Ayala has served the ball, and on just the second shot of the rally, she is already staring at a net-blanketing opponent, forced to hit a miraculous passing shot just to stay alive. If that sequence starts repeating early in the match, the psychological spiral begins. Ayala starts going for too much on her first serve. The percentage drops, the double faults arrive, and everything unravels. But here is where the story takes a turn nobody expected. Because for every weapon Muchova brought into this match, she carried an equal and opposite fragility. Karolina Muchova does not want to play long tennis matches. Her body has betrayed her time and time again throughout her career. She has spoken openly about how physically demanding the tour is on her frame. And when a match stops being about creativity, when it stops being about elegant drop shots and precise volleys, and simply becomes a brutal question of whose legs give out first, that is not a dark alley Muchova wants to find herself in. And Alexandra Ayala is possibly the worst opponent alive if you are trying to avoid a war of attrition. She seeks out the pain cave. She is completely at home when her lungs are burning and her legs are screaming. She showed a 0 drop in intensity across 3+ hours against Siegemund. She actually looked faster and more explosive at the end of the Friedrich match than at the beginning. She is a machine that runs hotter the longer the match goes. And mentally, Muchova had the experience advantage walking in. Grand Slam finals, big court moments, the ability to close matches, navigate tight moments, read momentum shifts. But experience only carries you so far when the crowd is a wall of sound chanting for the person across the net. In Miami, Ayala is not just a player, she is an event. The noise in that stadium is a physical force. And in the third hour of a grinding war, when the rallies become suffocating and the errors start creeping in, that crowd roar can hand Ayala a second wind she did not even know she had. For Muchova, it is one more layer she has to mentally block while trying to execute fragile, precision-based tennis. So, when you put it all together, the tactical edge, the physical endurance, the crowd energy, the mental evolution, and Muchova's injury shadow, this match was always going to come down to one single question. Could Ayala stay disciplined enough, calm enough, and stubborn enough to refuse to be dragged into chaos? Could she resist the pull of Muchova's web long enough to drag her into the deep end of the pool instead? And she did. She breathed through the tactical pressure. She stayed rigid when every instinct was screaming at her to overhit. She kept sending heavy, punishing balls deep into the court, demanding one more shot, then one more after that, over and over again, relentlessly and patiently, until Muchova's body started sending the bill. Until the wheels came off, until the collapse was complete. Alexandra Ayala did not just win a tennis match today. She passed the most definitive test of her career. And the tennis world that was quietly waiting for her to hit a wall just watched her walk straight through it. The potential is gone. What's left is simply undeniable.